Welcome to Informative Studio. Today we are going to talk about top 10 houses of horror so disturbing that they were demolished. Number 10, Fred and Rose West House. Fred and Rose West will go down in history as one of the worst serial killer duos. They lived at 25 Cromwell Street, Gloucester City, England, and what took place behind closed doors was so disturbing that the home has since been flattened. The sinister couple murdered at least 10 young women together between 1971 and 1987. Fred killed more beforehand. The victims were then dismembered and buried in either the cellar or the garden. The two even threatened their children that they, too, would end up under the patio. Number 9, Jeffrey Dahmer Apartment. When police officers arrived at the apartment of Jeffrey Dahmer at the 900 block of North 25th Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, they had no idea they were about to uncover one of the grisliest crime scenes of all time. He lured 17 men and boys back to his apartment from 1978 to 1991 with the intention to kill them. Police discovered 7 skulls, a human head, and 2 human hearts in the refrigerator, as well as an entire torso in the freezer, among other remains. After the crazed cannibal was arrested, his neighbors wished to depart the building as quickly as possible. One explained, "T'been been a living hell." Number 8, Ariel Castro House. Ariel Castro kidnapped 3 female victims on separate occasions between 2002 and 2004 when they were aged 14, 16, and 20 years old. He then held them captive at his home in Cleveland, Ohio. The young girls, who grew into women during their decade of hell, were kept in darkness, surrounded by boarded windows and with only a small hole providing any circulation. In 2013, one of the brave victims was able to escape when Castro failed to secure the inside door, and she screamed a cry of help that alerted the neighbors. Castro was arrested that same evening, but he only lived out 1 month of his life sentence before he hanged himself with a bedsheet in prison. Number 7, the Petty Family Home. The Petty Family Home invasion is so disturbing that it became one of the most widely publicized crimes in the state of Connecticut history. In 2007, Dr. William Petty, his wife Jennifer Hawk Petty, and their young daughters 17-year-old Haley and 11-year-old Michaela suffered a brutal, random attack at their family home in Cheshire. Perpetrator Stephen Hayes and his accomplice Joshua Komazarjevsky broke into the home, first striking William Petty with a baseball bat and then binding the other family members and forcing Jennifer to go with them to the bank and withdraw cash. She was able to alert the bank teller of the situation, but the Petty family were failed by the responding police officers. As the mother and daughters were brutalized and murdered inside, the police still did not enter, instead focusing on setting up a perimeter around the home. William Petty was able to escape as the perpetrators torched the house. The remainder of the family home was torn down, and the lot is now a memorial garden for the family. Number 6, the Bloody Bender's House. More than 140 years ago, one family committed such evil that they became known as the Bloody Benders. The Labette County, Kansas, family consisted of 4 people: Owen Bender, his wife Elvira, and their children John Jr. and Kate. Some sources claim that Kate was actually John Jr.'s common-law wife. From 1869 to 1872, his family would invite travelers into their home with the sole intention of smashing their skulls, cutting their throats, and stealing all their possessions. When members of the community noticed the rise in missing persons traveling through the area, they called a meeting. A few days after that meeting, the Bender's family home was abandoned, and locals discovered a terrible odor coming from inside. After a proper investigation, the bodies of their 11 victims were uncovered. However, other missing persons cases could tie the bloodthirsty family to as many as 21 murders. The since demolished house is nowadays nothing more than a gravel road 2 hours southeast of Wichita. Ghost hunters will travel there just to soak up any sensation of its sinister history. Number 5, John Christie House. In London, 10 Rillington Place in Notting Hill is not the same house as it once was. In 1978, the place was rebuilt so that the grisly memories of the previous building could be long forgotten. In the 1940s and early 1950s, serial killer John Christie hid the bodies of his victims around the house, including burying them in the garden, hiding them under the floorboards, or stuffing the corpses inside a wall in the kitchen. In 1953, he was arrested, and it was discovered that young women who had turned to him for help with unwanted pregnancies were murdered. It is believed more than 8 vulnerable victims lost their lives to the sinister Christie. Despite the rebuild, this might be a case where past evils haven't moved on quite so quickly. The current owner confessed, "Think the place is cursed. I had bad luck since I been here. I been here 40 years. My health gone. Everything gone." Number 4, Ted Bundy House. Ted Bundy confessed to the murders of 30 young women and girls in 7 states between 1974 and 1978. However, the real victim count is believed to be much higher, as he buried the corpses in several secluded areas. One location that became a killing spot for him was Emigration Canyon, Utah. The serial killer's former rooming house has since been destroyed, leaving only a scatter of bricks. However, the sinister cellar is still intact, which encourages ghost hunters and other true crime fans who are chasing a creepy experience. Bundy moved to Utah when he was accepted at the University of Utah Law School in August 1974. It believed he kidnapped and murdered 8 victims aged between 16 and 18 during his time in the state. The surrounding area of Bundy's cellar would have been the last place some of these women saw before their lives were stolen from them. Number 3, Anthony Sowell House. 2 years after Anthony Cleveland Strangler Sowell murdered 11 women between 2007 and 2009, his former home on Imperial Avenue in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood of Cleveland was demolished. The property was where the bodies of the victims were found in various states of decomposition. The hunt for more bodies left the home in crippling disrepair, and the city decided it was in the interest of public safety to tear it down for good. More than 50 people, including relatives of the victims, gathered outside the property to watch the demise of the death house. The victims' family members received the following hand-delivered letter from the city: "In order to prevent actions that would be disrespectful to the memory of your loved one, your family and our community, the demolition will be performed in such a way that no piece of the property will remain." Number 2, Meyer, Hindley and Ian Brady House. Meyer, Hindley and Ian Brady are considered by many as the real faces of evil. In the early to mid-1960s, they killed 5 children aged between 10 and 17. The bodies of 3 of the victims were discovered in graves on Saddleworth Moor, but the chilling couple never revealed where they placed the bodies of the other victims. Hindley died behind bars in 2002 and Brady in 2017, and they never allowed the relatives of the victims any piece of holding information about the murders until the very end. It no surprise that the home the Moors murderers shared on Wardlebrook Avenue in Hattersley, Cheshire, England, the same place where investigators found the body of their final victim Tate empty for so many years after the couple was arrested. Nobody wanted to live in a property where 2 of the biggest monsters in Britain once slept peacefully at night. The property was pulled down in 1987, and the site has remained empty ever since. Number 1, Dr. H. Holmes Murder Castle. In 1885, Dr. H. Holmes moved to the Englewood neighborhood of Chicago and built his now infamous Murder Castle. The labyrinth-like structure featured many different rooms with equally sinister ways to die. The rooms were soundproofed, and the many secret passages would leave his unsuspecting guests feeling disorientated. There were even trapdoors that would drop his victims into the basement where he could finish the job. Holmes murdered for financial gain, often selling the skeletons of his victims to medical research facilities. The actual victim count has been guessed to be as high as 200, but Holmes only confessed to 27 murders. He was hanged at Meyer Prison in Philadelphia in 1896. In 1938, the murder castle was finally torn down, and a post office now stands in its place. Chicago tour guides still take groups to the former site of the murders, but the true horror that took place here can only really be imagined. These are top 10 horror houses demolished after crime. Hopefully you liked this video. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe Informative Studio for more videos.